G'day, here we are at two more mountains, having just been to North Brother Mountain where we were looking at Isaiah for end times insights. So before we get back into Isaiah, let me just sit down and share with you where we are right now. We're on Middle Brother Mountain on a very nicely prepared synthetic launching pad for the hang gliders. And we're looking down south towards South Brother Mountain. So these are the three brothers, north, middle and south. South Brother is quite the challenging climb for us. There are no dedicated trails, but we certainly enjoyed climbing up that ridge. And if you look closely to the eastern side, you might be able to pick out the Pacific Motorway cutting through the forest, going round the other side of South Brother Mountain. And if I get out of the way, you should be able to see it heading south down towards the Manning River on its way from Brisbane to Sydney, total distance of about 900 kilometres. You know, I was telling you about Captain Cook sailing past and identifying these three brothers on Saturday the 12th of May 1770. He also noticed this headland out here, which you might be able to pick out in the haze, and it was crowded with Aborigines who'd come to watch this amazing sight of this enormous canoe sailing past with wings on it. They must have been just gobsmacked. So he called it Crowdy Head, and it's been called that ever since. There it is, fishing village on Crowdy Head with its own national park and lovely beach. So let's get back into Isaiah. But before we do, let's just remind ourselves that he's been speaking to Judah and Jerusalem, and what he's been saying is, in his day, outrageous. That the prosperous kingdom of Judah is heading towards being overrun by the enemy, so much so that only a remnant will be left in the besieged city of Jerusalem. Well, guess what? God's prophecies have that uncanny knack of coming true, and as we find out soon enough, it happened in about 50 years' time. Well, have you heard of the expression going from the sublime to the ridiculous? Well, Isaiah goes from outrageous to what seems today totally impossible. Let me read to you what he says. I'm reading from the NASB for you American listeners. The word which Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. Now it will come about that in the last days, the mountain of the house of the Lord will be established as the chief of the mountains, a mountain of mountains, and will be raised above the hills. All the nations will stream to it. Many peoples will come and say, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us concerning his ways, that we may walk in his paths. For the law will go forth from Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem." How extraordinary. Today, the United Nations meet in New York City to foment war on Israel. And here they are, willingly going to the mountain of Jehovah to the God of the house of Jacob to hear his law. Where does this expression last days come from? Come with me as we wind the clock back to, shall I say, about 1,000 years, to Genesis 28. Behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie, that's Jacob, lying on the ground in Bethel, I will give it to you and to your descendants. Get that? I will give it to you. Some 70 years later, he's come to the end of his life at, I think it was 147, and he has this happening. Jacob summoned his sons and said, assemble yourselves that I may tell you what will before you. The NSB says in the days to come, which doesn't really make sense. It should be in the last days. Gather together and hear, O sons of Jacob, and listen to Israel, your father. Let's remind ourselves what happens to these guys. All of them. Jacob, all of his sons, and his 2 Egyptian grandsons will all die as refugees in Egypt. Never, ever did they possess the land. And yet, in the last days, we're being told that all nations will come to Jerusalem, to the house of the God of Jacob, and they will hear the law. Yes, it sounds utterly impossible unless we have our faith securely in Almighty God. How strong is your faith? How strong is my faith? Can he pull this off? Can he raise these patriarchs to inherit the land? And all nations will submit to Jehovah and to his law. Let's just finish at that. We'll look at verse 4 another day at a very peaceful location that I have in mind. Of course, there's a reason for that. And we've been to Durjan, we're at Mirjan, and we're looking at Burjan. So I hope you enjoyed this one. The 3 brothers looking at Isaiah 1 and 2. Thanks for listening. See you later.